California is yet again making waves as they actively pursue a ban on autonomous vehicles with a gross weight of 10,000 pounds or more. The National Highway Safety Administration is moving ahead with new side underride guard requirements, and Interstate Health Systems breaks ground on a new driver-focused health clinic. All those stories, plus the latest updates on driver recruiting, freight, and spot numbers. And as we inch ever closer to the CVSA Roadcheck event, we talk with Jason Miller about what the data tells us we can expect in this month's economic outlook. For Randall Reilly, I'm Joshua Miller, and this is the 30-Day Reset. Joining us, everybody. Now, we're going to be getting to all the stuff I just teased there and a little bit more, but I do want to remind everyone that we will be covering a lot of ground. So if you really want to dig into the data and analyze exactly what's happening, please download our 30-Day Reset PDF for the month. It contains everything I'm going to be going over on this show, plus it provides even more detail, as well as some charts and graphs. That being said, let's get right to it. First up, Trucking by the Numbers, brought to you by Stratus Strategize. Let's get started with some driver trends. Not too much has changed in the driver hiring market since last time. Drivers have remained very active in searching for jobs, but market uncertainty and equipment shortages have lowered carriers' desire to hire. Low click costs combined with record-breaking conversion rates continue to supply low lead costs. April's overall cost per lead looks to be on pace to be the second lowest level since July of 2020, with only March's CPL being lower. The average company driver cost per hire fell 18% month over month and 37% year over year, while the average owner-op cost per hire fell 14% month over month and 41% year over year. Trends on recruiting landing pages and multi-carrier applications continue to indicate drivers have high intent to find new driving jobs. Landing page conversion rates increased 6% compared to March, which had been the highest point on record by a pretty large margin. Truck driver job postings rose 10% in March, while the number of seekers rose 5%. Number of seekers per job fell month over month, but was up 120% year over year. Comparing March of 2023 to March 2019, and that's for a pre-COVID comparison there was 75% more people searching for driving jobs and 23% more jobs available. Now the freight market. FTR expects negative conditions for carriers through Q3 of 2024. Financing and cost of capital look to remain high due to those high interest rates, meaning smaller operations are going to feel it a little bit more than the larger ones. During times like this, fleets should focus on improving efficiency, perhaps by improving driver quality and being a little more selective with the new driver hires. Total load volume increased by 8% week over week, which was the largest gain in 7 weeks. And though the loads ticked up week over week, the totals still fell well below those of last year and the 5-year average. Volume fell 49% year over year and 23% when you compare it to the 5-year. Dry van load volume increased by 5%, refrigerated was up 4%, and flatbed load volume rose by 10% week over week. Overall broker rates increased by a little over 2.5 cents per mile as dry van and refrigerated both dipped by 1 cent and flatbed increased by 3 cents per mile week over week. Now, let's take a look at this month's headlines. A new bill in California. AB 316 seeks to ban driverless commercial trucks with a gross weight of 10,000 pounds or more. It recently cleared another hurdle as it was approved by the State Committee on Communications and Conveyance. More than 55 business organizations and companies, including the California Small Business Association and the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, signed a letter in opposition to the bill. California is currently home to numerous autonomous technology developers, yet they still do not allow for testing of driverless vehicles with gross weights of over 10,000 pounds on the road. And although AB 316 is currently winding its way through the state legislature, the California Department of Motor Vehicles is also looking into regulatory framework that would allow autonomous vehicles over that 10,000 pound mark to operate on the road, possibly even within a year. And that would not require consent from state legislature. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration signaled it would continue moving forward with possible enforcement of side underride guards. The NHTSA released a report concluding that 17.2 fatalities and 69 serious injuries could be prevented annually if they mandated trucks be equipped with side underride guards. The next step in the process is moving forward with the already established 16-person advisory committee with the purpose of making recommendations to the Secretary of Transportation on safety regulations relating to underride crashes. And finally, Interstate Health Systems broke ground on one of its first driver-focused clinics in Port Wentworth, Georgia. The company is striving to create a dynamic network of primary care, urgent care, and telemedicine services along the highway system to make healthcare more accessible to the transportation industry. IHS plans to open 60 clinics over the next 2 years and have 300 locations across the country within the next 6 years. Each location will be strategically located near truck stops and travel centers to allow drivers to access parking. And that's it for this month's news stories. Now let's close out our show with an economic update from Michigan State's Associate Professor of Logistics, our friend, Mr. Jason Miller.
So this month, what we're going to be talking about a little bit is what to expect with the International Roadcheck event that's going to be taking place in mid-May. And my colleagues, Alex Scott at the University of Tennessee and Andy Balthrop at the University of Arkansas, we've actually done some peer-reviewed academic research that'll be coming out in a few months that focuses on how carriers respond during those road check events. And what we found is very consistent evidence that in the time period leading up to these events, your big carriers will actually see a reduction in their rate of vehicle maintenance violations. This is very consistent with an announced inspection causing firms that do not have the ability to sideline operations for multiple days. They're starting to repair their fleets now. And we see that show up in the form of reduced violation rates relative to other times of the year in the 30 days prior to these events. We do not see the same dynamic for fleets with one power unit, so your independent owner operators, or very small fleets with just 2 to 6 vehicles. Now, not surprisingly then, during those blitz events, large carriers see very substantial reductions in their rate of violations, holding constant all other factors, including the type of inspections that are being performed. So holding everything constant, our big carriers are going to be seeing less violations. So they're going to be accruing less CSA points and paying less fines, all things equal. In comparison, we actually see for independent owner operators, they are cited more for issues during blitzes like this. And so this is something to keep in mind, is that if you're not repairing your equipment, the data is suggesting you're going to be more likely to be cited during those blitz events if you are running. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is this idea of many independent owner operators taking vacations and not running during this period. And our data actually supports this, and that we find if we look at the proportion of inspections that take place based on the size of carriers, we see significant decreases for our one power unit cohort, which are your independent owner operators. So we do see that capacity does step out of the market. That is replaced by the fact that the larger carriers, the ones that again are being more likely to engage in that preventative maintenance, they're more likely to be inspected during blitzes. So please don't believe that the fact small carriers are cited for more violations, all things equal, has to do with inspectors unduly and unfairly targeting them, because small carriers are actually inspected less during these blitz events, which leads us to implications for carriers, shippers, and brokers. For carriers, the message is clear. If you're going to be running during the blitz, fix your equipment now. No, if you can't fix everything, one thing we observe in our data is the average model year on a truck during a blitz event like this is about 0.23 years newer than during the rest of the year. So this is suggesting a lot of firms are setting aside and sidelining their older equipment during this period that's more likely to be in need of maintenance. For shippers watching this, plan your tenders around the blitz to the extent that you possibly can. This would be especially important if you're working with small carriers who are more likely to sideline capacity during this period. And lastly, for brokers, the fact we have less independent owner operators on the road during these periods means there is essentially less supply of capacity for you for spot rates. So expect that the spot rates you are paying carriers are going to be higher. As a result, you need to budget for this. And if you are going out and bidding on spot freight from shippers, you need to be charging higher prices accordingly. And so with that, that is what we should be expecting as we move into our May Roadcheck event.
Thanks so much for that, Jason. Now remember, the next CVSA Roadcheck event is just around the corner. This time, the inspection blitz will be May 16th through May 18th, and the primary focus will be on anti-lock braking systems and load securement. And that just about does it for us here. Don't forget to download your copy of this month's PDF covering all the information we went over today, including charts and graphs on all the various costs we talked about, landing page numbers, and the information Jason just covered. We look forward to you joining us again next time for another all-new 30-day reset. Until then, thanks for watching. If you like that video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We have new 30-day resets debuting every month, along with recruiting roundups, listening ins, and other great driver recruiting content.